Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast. Romana is doing a little dance here, and I'm now copying. We are back in for our female bodybuilding truths roundtable, and we've got one of our fangirls joining us this week, Meckela. Welcome.
I was going to say good morning. It's actually not even good morning. It's good evening.
But would you class this as evening or afternoon? That's the question. See, I
Mm,
would class this as
definitely,
afternoon.
definitely afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm miles off then. I'm good morning.
Even though it is like getting dark at 4 o'clock,
I know.
Mm,
Disgusting.
sickening.
I
Mm.
think as
yeah.
well, like you sort of forget. Obviously, I was in Thailand last time this year, but I think you sort of forget sometimes how quickly it turns dark at like 4, and you're like, this is so weird. Like it feels really late, and it's like 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Mm,
What was the time difference in Thailand, sir?
7 hours.
What,
geez.
behind or forward?
So forward, so like I would be doing check-ins like at night, and then the clients would be checking in, and
Oh,
like for me, it was difficult to get my head around that. Like all my clients understood, and they were like, "Obviously, you're going to live your best life and whatever." But it never really sat very well for me. Like it always felt like I was behind. It was
yeah.
really, really weird.
I've
And then
got
obviously they would get back to me after check-in, and it's like 8, 9 p.m.
yeah. I got a client in Singapore, like as she checks in, I'm going to bed. So it's really strange. Like it's just back.
Alex, my
Alex.
Australian
Yeah.
client, she checks in on a Saturday, and I feel so bad for her because she'll check in most of the time. It was like 9 p.m., which is just too late for me. She actually checked in at 6:30 this week, and I was able to do her check in on a Saturday night, and it made me very, very happy.
Great result.
I
Yeah.
don't like leaving it.
Will, is this a competitor client, Sarah?
No. So she's like she will eventually be a competitor, like a natty competitor, but she's just doing a bit of a photo shoot at the moment. So it's really exciting. We've been working together for over a year now. So she's just getting ready for a photo shoot because basically, like in Singapore, they have like I don't know whether it's the same with all gyms, but they have to do like a team photo shoot and they have to get like under a certain body fat percentage. So I think she has to get under 14. And it's like proper strict. Like they'll go and do like a photo shoot together and we have to get a sub 14%. And yeah,
No
it's mad.
way.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they do it every year. So
Wow.
yeah, so we're just gonna use this rebound and she's completely natural as well, which is really cool. So yeah, it's been a hoot. So but hoping to get her on the natty stage in the next like year or so.
Ooh, I'm just thinking as well when it's peak week and around the show, you'll be up at random hours like Mana and I were last
Yeah.
time. It's so weird. It's like midnight, two in the morning, and you're doing like check-ins, and it's wild. It's super cool, and you're like me, like it's like so exciting. You're like, I don't need to sleep for a week, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh.
What even?
Um,
Yeah. What
The
even is?
natties are taking over, though, to be fair. Natties are taking over. They look insane. Like,
Yeah.
fucking wild. Oh, sorry, cursing. Absolutely wild.
Pass away. It
you
smells
sound like
even
a
better.
trooper.
Huh?
Don't worry.
On
She was just
every second
apologising
word,
for swearing.
it's proper. Every second word is like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh shit, oh fuck, oh fuck. I'm just like, I need to calm down. But
Get excited.
oh
To be,
bala.
it's meant to suggest that you have a slightly higher IQ, use of sarcasm and swearing. That's my excuse anyway.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that now, but for me, I'm just airy fairy up there. Where's the fairies?
You find, Michaela, that bodybuilding gives you like the tunnel vision and helps you organize your life? Because like you
Oh
said,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
big time. Like I think for me, obviously, I was like I got into bodybuilding a lot later, but I found that having that discipline and that structure has made me a hell of a lot more of a person. Like I've kind of found myself where before there was no structure, there was nothing, everything was erratic, absolutely erratic. Like I couldn't control me. I was a bit wild. I couldn't control me, but when I got into it, I think I did a photo shoot first.
How did you get
And
into it?
I always kind of wanted to do it. Like I have a background in sports. Like I played camogie. It's an Irish sport. I played rugby for a few years and I done sprints.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know how I could like me sprinting like with the weight in me now.
Oh, mate.
There's I couldn't run.
My dad's always like, "Why didn't you get back into football?" And I'm like, "Dad, I'm like 20 kilos heavier. It's not gonna happen. My knees split the minute I start running."
I used to sprint as well, and it's just thinking of those forces going through your leg muscles. It's like the
Yeah.
surefire way. I had to run after Rogue the other day, and it just like every joint in my body hurt.
No.
Oh.
My daughter went to get on a different bus the other day and I was running and I literally took 2 steps and I said, "Do you know what? If she gets on that bus, I'll meet her on the next one. I am not running. I can't. There's no
It's
way.
happening. It's happening.
Bye." I was literally just like, if she gets on it, book it, we're all going the same way anyway, so I'll just collect her. I was just like, I'm not running. But how I got into bodybuilding then was the photo shoot. I kind of always wanted to do bodybuilding, but a lot of things held me back. Once I separated myself from them kind of situations and them kind of people, it just rocketed from there. I was just like, this is me. Like, I can't. I don't find enjoyment in anything else. Like, I still do my prep routine from my first ever prep. I'm still in that routine from when I done wellness. So I just carried that over into obviously the prep that I just done previously. And even still now, I'm still up at 5:15, still getting 4K steps in and then going about the day. I can't lose that routine. But other than that, I think it was the best thing I've ever done.
I didn't realise you were in wellness, Em.
nor did I.
Oh, neither did I, because I didn't look wellness anyway.
Just rocked up. Thought it was cool.
I was
Oh.
tiny.
Your legs and glutes are just mental. You can tell that you've come from that wellness background of having maybe more focus on that body part with your
Yeah.
training. Whereas I think I speak maybe for Sara and myself with this, our legs were probably our weakest body part, and that's been the legs and glutes have been the focus for, well, since I started bodybuilding to bring up, really.
Yeah.
Bane of my life.
Now, in
Especially
saying
when
that,
you've got older
I still love
knees.
training glute, like, and I love it, but I know, like, now that I'm like, I have to detach myself from solely focusing on that because the back is shite, absolutely shite. I'm like, I need muscle on that back. So it is finding that kind of happy medium with being able to detach from solely focusing on glutes. But yeah, I didn't enjoy wellness, and I was like, I don't enjoy this. And then when we done the posing, remember we clicked onto that posing remote, and I was like, I can't put heels on. I was like, I just look odd in heels. I can't.
Yeah.
So I initially kind of wanted to go figure, and then I was like, no, I don't think this is me. Like, it didn't sit with me. I wasn't, not that I wasn't happy, but I was like, it just doesn't suit me. And then I was like, I'd love to try like WPD. So from wellness to WPD.
There's an elegance to figure, but I found it quite restrictive. The posing is very restrictive. The fact that you're having to wear heels, and if heels aren't something that you feel naturally elegant in, it just makes you feel like a stomping elephant.
Yeah.
But it was like, at the time in my head, I didn't see WPD as an option because I didn't feel big enough. And it does take a while for your mind to kind of get your head around, actually, no, own the confidence in being big enough. Did you struggle with that as well?
Oh, big time. Even today, I cried. This is my first time crying in about 3 years. And I was like, am I ever going to be good enough? Because I seen obviously the standards at the show. I remember standing backstage and I knew myself. I said, Deeds, like, what are you eating over in the UK? What is in the water over here? You are huge. I was just looking, I was like, little 5 foot nothing. I was like, yeah, I'm over here.
You say that, but you got.
Um,
You say that, but you say that you don't feel big enough and what have you, but you still got through to you won your class and got through to the overall in both the shows that you did.
Yeah. I think it's more
So-
so like I can bring condition.
You definitely can.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing that I was kind of like, right, well, the only thing I need now is to build muscle to bring better condition next time. So I just thought basically was like, just stop crying. Just go home and have a bagel or something. Stop crying.
Go home and jab some more steroids.
Yeah. Thankfully, because all my bloods came back like better than they started in prep.
Good.
which I knew because I'm a freak with my supplements. Like I take them religiously without fail. And if I didn't have any coming home, I would route from head to toe in Dublin looking for a pharmacy that's open. I'm like, I want NAC, I want this.
NAC,
I live off that.
the Bible.
Live off that. I think it's a staple that everyone natty or not should be on.
The
Definitely.
NAC.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's an antitoxin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that kind of I use that because I have cystic acne. So I found when I start implementing NAC and glutathione, honestly, like my skin, I actually had it on my story. People were asking, like, did I get Botox?
Yeah.
No, I have nothing in that skin. I literally just do the two staples that I religiously like build upon.
Hmm.
Know the actual pharmaceutical, what the acronym stands for, but it's very long and very complicated. And the one I found really good for skin, hair, nails, just generally feeling better is NMN. So November, Mike, November. It's a precursor to NAD, I believe. I could be wrong in that. But I started taking that. My nails just grew ridiculously.
I think my nail growth is super quick and my hair, and I'm like, must be the growth.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, I have to keep going
It's
back.
growth.
Yeah. Oh, you don't use growth?
Can't use it. I used it 2021, 2022, and then as I started, basically it's all Dan's fault. When he took over my training and I started to grow even more, it was around the time of the Arnold's, my carpal tunnel, it was waking me up like so much during the night. Had a glutathione IV with some peptides in it, and that kind of helped for about a week. And then it came back, and it's that balance, like, okay, so yeah, GH obviously has its benefits, but if it's disturbing my sleep to the extent it was, what you're kind of undoing all the good from it. So yeah, we tried implementing it after prep this year, and I think I managed 2 days before I was like, no, it's just too much. I mean, even without using GH, I get really bad carpal tunnel. So then just adding in the carpal tunnel, but it's to the point like anything little dexterity wise, for example, I don't know, getting paracetamol out of a packet, anything that requires that fine dexterity is a real struggle because it's almost like my hands just don't work like they should do. And I'm fucked if I'm having the surgery. No thanks.
Oh, Jesus.
Growth's another one as well, where I was actually talking to someone at the gym the other day that if you use growth and you've got a tumor that you don't know about, there's a risk of that. And I think when you get into, I mean, we've got a question about PD, so it's quite a good segue there. But when you get into the assisted realms, obviously we speak a lot about the awareness, etc. But it's like something like that. I doubt you'd even tie that together, right? Like that you might have a tumor, so you should maybe get a check to not use growth. Like it seems so adverse, and it seems like it would never happen to you with something like that. So.
There's so many different types of tumor. We're not necessarily just talking cancerous.
Yeah.
You could have, you think women get cysts on their ovaries, not endometriosis, what they're called. It will come to me at some point. But it's
Polycystic.
It's basically you can get a collection of cells almost as if it happens when you are developing in the womb, and you get this collection of cells on the side of your ovary. It could have been the twin that you absorbed or something like that. And they will continue to grow through the course of your life to the point where they can get so big that they become problematic. And they aren't cancerous or anything like that, but they can find hair and teeth and stuff like that, and them pretty minging. So that's quite common. I had something called a thyroadenoma when I was a kid in one of my breasts. Again, non-cancerous, but I had that removed because it was actually painful. But women can have that and they can grow, and using compounds like GH, that can make them grow because it doesn't think, oh, this person wants their muscles to grow, so I'm going to direct my GH wizardry towards that. It's just everything, cellular growth. I've been listening, there's a lot of research coming out as well about BPC, more oral than subcutaneous or site injecting, where people are taking it orally and continually using it, and that can have the same effect as GH on any sort of tumorous growth within the body. So it's just something to be mindful. Check your lumps and bumps.
Mm.
Definitely.
Yeah, you just wouldn't know with something like that. And that's where, this is why we do talk about, obviously we haven't spoken about this before, but there is so much to it. And it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's like you've just described there, there's many things that you'd never really know that this is a thing, right? And then you take growth hormone and maybe, like you say, it's not even cancerous, but
Think about it like you would think about using anabolics. Anabolics will promote muscle growth. And I think, generally as bodybuilders, there's a high awareness that heart is a muscle and that will grow as a result of anabolics as well as your skeletal muscle. It's the same for the auxiliaries like BGH and BPC. They will affect other areas of the body other than what you want them to affect, because that's just the nature of the beast.
yeah.
We don't go out and get pissed every weekend, so
we got this sorry. I did a little Matt and I did a little experiment
today.
I've never really spoken about this apart from to a couple of people. So why not tell you, my girls? So with growth, we were like, right, we're just going to try a little experiment. And basically, I'm very bottom heavy. When I start to gain fat in an off season, it goes there straight away. As I diet down, about 3 weeks out, my legs are like, hi, I'm here now. And the whole time I'm like, shit. Anyway, we did growth into one outer thigh and then rotated onto the other outer thigh and did like 4-week blocks and took photos. And noticeably, the thigh that I did first looked leaner and better body comp than the other one. And then I did the other one and it caught up. So yeah, always experimenting as well.
Interesting.
Very. I was like, and it actually looked quite different. I was like, this is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, maybe don't try it at home, but
Speaking of the GH and the thighs thing, when I prepped not last year, when I dieted in 2022, whilst GH was in, my lower abdomen where I pinned GH it came in quicker than it did the subsequent preps afterwards. Just
that point in prep when it starts to bleed when you're injecting into your stomach. I went into kneecaps in my last prep. My
kneecaps?
Yeah, my coach was like, you're gonna have to do your knee. We told one of Matt's clients and he was like, you're a fucking savage. I'm like, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Kneecaps. Out of everything you chose, your kneecaps.
Well, that was Tom. It's like, in your kneecaps. I was like, in my kneecap.
How did you even
Romana's in shock.
It's my own squeamishness about knees of having like a bad knee as a teenager and then fucking my knee back in February. I'm just like one of my mates came up and stayed last Christmas and she's got a bad knee and she was injecting BPC into and TB 500 in straight into it. I was like, I can't watch. Like
that's what I had to do when I had the bad knee. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with it, but mine's still dodgy. Now I squatted yesterday, thankfully, but I was doing it into the knee, the BPC and the TBC. And I remember I got stuck and I was lying over the bath and I was like, I can't get out. And I live on my own. So I was like, it's stuck. I can't look at it. I can't. So I had to stop because I just can't even look at the knee. It made me weak. Like, no, that's a no-no.
Do you girls remember the first time you pinned?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't use injectables.
Yeah.
Are we talking the first time we pinned ourselves or the first time we pinned somebody else? Because the first time I pinned somebody else, I was 19.
Stop.
Anabolics within the ambulance service.
Oh, okay.
By the time it came to pinning myself, it wasn't really that big an issue. It's like I'd stretched my tunnels myself, I'd re-pierced some of my cartilage piercings myself when they'd healed over a little bit, so it didn't actually bother me. It freaks me out when Dan gets me to pin his lats. I do not like doing that.
Yeah, I don't like doing it. I'm like, do I have to? I think an
Not just a
interesting
tranquilizer dart it.
Yeah. There you go. I've been watching lots of the documentaries, and I was watching Boston Lloyd the other day, and I was actually having some thoughts around this. So when I first went down the assisted route, I think a lot of the sort of, I guess, pre-thoughts about it was being quite scared to inject, and I had Tom, and he could help me and whatever. But I was thinking, obviously Boston Lloyd put a lot of stuff out and it went, in that direction, and we're not going to advocate that as such. But I was thinking, like, for females, I don't know what I'm trying to ask you, mate. Like, could you put something on YouTube, or because I was thinking, it's then difficult, isn't it, to like, what would females and then maybe they would get it wrong. You see where it's a bit of a grey area, isn't it?
I've sent friends sort of footage of how to go about it is as from an educational standpoint, but then it's like I've got the clinical background with that to be able to do it. The Boston Lloyd documentary, Dan and I started trying to watch that, and we actually had to stop because we found the overtness of the injecting quite, I don't know, I want to say seedy, but it was a bit much. Like, I think we stopped it within about 5 minutes because he'd spent 2 of those minutes with a syringe hanging out of his ass.
Oh, and
It
yeah,
was
there was
just
one hanging out the chest, weren't there, for 8? It's just
we didn't get that far. It was the arse shot, and it was like, do you know what? It's a sad story as it is. And I just, it's kind of glorifying how he came to die, which
Yeah.
didn't sit very comfortably with me. And I used to listen to a lot of the Leo Longevity podcasts that had him on them. And the amount they talk about how he would just reuse the same needle for weeks at a time. Yeah, reuse the same syringes, that sort of stuff. It's, we're already at increased risk of things like hepatitis without doing stuff like that. It's, just a bit.
It just made me sort of think, like, I don't know, I guess back to when I was like, oh, I don't know how to do this. But then, as you say, it's like, if you were going to put something out there, is it glorifying it? And would someone then do it if they weren't going to, and then they see you do it, and you're like, I guess everyone has to stay in their own lane to a certain degree. But yeah, I was just like, obviously that was very extreme, what he was sort of putting out, and
Dangerous sometimes.
yeah.
Like the information that some people do put out is dangerous sometimes. Extremely dangerous. But then again, people can be so gullible too, and they find it's like, he does it, so that's all right. And it's like, all right, then if you want to go down that route too, that's fine. If you want to follow the footsteps, that's fine. There's no kind of awareness or safety around it, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's very much the same with everything. There's so much misinformation out there. You think back to COVID and the amount of conspiracy misinformation that was going on there. This is all down to the lizard people that are wanting adrenochrome from children. So they've shut the world down so they can get more. It's like, are you literally psychotic, or are you just that thick? I could.
But the lizard people, Romana.
But where do the lizard people live? And surely we'd see them if they look like lizard people. You'd notice some green fucker wandering around with scales and a tail, wouldn't you? I mean,
well, that leads me on to the question. Although it's completely out of context now, but we've also got a duck jumper in the background of Sara that we're all rating here. So if you're on the Apple Podcast, you need to watch YouTube as well. Now,
that's
that Meckela thought were crumpets. Food focused over there.
That would be sick though if they were crumpets.
It's like different bikinis, isn't it? You can get like donuts, crumpet, like different stuff.
Feel the need to take you to my toilet because we've got 4 rubber duckies sat on the top. Mate, I'll send you a photo and you can put it in the thumbnails, Sarah.
Thumbnail is just 4 ducks.
Barbell. One of them's a chick with a shaker and a little dumbbell. One of them's Hulk, and then one of them's just a plain ducky, I think, from what I remember.
I love it. So the question's actually from one of Matt's clients. Now, I don't know if he's asking for his other half, a friend, or just out of interest, but Kieran has asked, PEDs for women's bodybuilding, do they take the same as males? So that, of course, is a rabbit hole, can of worms to a certain degree, because potentially, you know, the ancillaries and some, there is a crossover. However, if we're talking, we've spoken before about things like tren, you know, the use of potentially in the female realm. There is sometimes stories you hear, but generally speaking, it is going to be separate protocols, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like we're not saying that it's not been used before, but like I know 90% of women probably wouldn't go down that route and shouldn't go down that route. Do you know what I mean? Like something as highly toxic and as life ruining as trends for a female, like I think would be just a stupid road to go down. But you hear these stories of women using them anyway. Do you know what I mean? And if they were to use them, well, I guess that's just down to their own kind of what they deem necessary to get them where they would. But I'd never use it. No way.
I've had bloodwork clients, female bloodwork clients that have used tren, and they were aware of the risks, aware of the effects, and weren't phased, bothered, affected by it. They were older, they'd had their children, and it's one of those things that everyone has the right to make a wrong decision as long as they have the correct information to make an informed decision about that choice.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if you are going to run the same compounds at the same volumes as men, you are going to be up shit creek without a paddle. You're going to risk high amounts of virilization. You're going to risk shutting down your own hormones, skewing your own hormones. You're going to risk your own fertility. It would be silly,
Yeah.
one may suggest.
I actually thought about two compounds that I wanted to sort of talk about with you girls, because again, it's just me and Stoke-on-Trent. I don't speak to anyone other than Matt, apart from when I'm speaking to girls.
Beg your pardon, we video called the other day.
Well, yeah, and only my girls, only my girls. You're the only one about this type of stuff. And there's sort of, I have conversations in the gym, you see, and a lot of the time it's actually with males, sometimes females, but more so the males about PEDs. And I was speaking to a girl the other day about Masteron for female use. Now, I haven't used it myself, and I wondered if any of you have got any experience with it or clients that have used it, because it's meant to be quite a good compound, as it were.
I've used it before, but I couldn't say that it was like mad good. Like I prefer Primo over Mastron, but again, like the dosage that I was running, I mean, we're talking maybe like a year or maybe like a couple, maybe like over a year ago, and I think I used like 60 mgs a week, and it was, I didn't really rate it or anything like that. I prefer to use something like Primo just because I respond much better to it. But you know, I've had clients use it on very low dosages before, but again, like just because of certain compounds that they couldn't use or they didn't want to use them and they'd much rather use this one because it was more suitable to what they wanted in regards to from that compound. But I didn't really rate it, to be honest. I just thought it was just, I didn't really get much from it compared to using Primo or something like that.
It's psychologically
I'm
better. Like any lifting well-being at all?
Not really, no.
Just because I spoke to a man on a podcast not long ago, and he was saying it's meant to be a feel-good drug, and he felt like remarkably better on it. Again,
I'm actually using it for the first time. We started running it 3 weeks ago. With Primo and MPP.
MPP.
Very low estrogen anyway. So we've got the MPP in there to help us convert to estrogen. Primo doesn't. Mastron effectively like a sperm, so you get more higher blood levels of circulating in the body. Sorry, have I frozen again?
Oh, no,
people need to move because otherwise I don't frozen. And I found my joints aren't hurting as much. I mean, that could also be because I've got MPP in, which is increasing my aromatization than just my femtest. Strength, it's a bit difficult to tell because I've got so many niggles that I have to guard against anyway. But what I have noticed is when I tend to run MPP, I get a slight increase in baseline anxiety, which I can manage because I know it's the MPP. But with this cycle, I'm still running the same dose of MPP that I've run in the past, but there isn't that underlying baseline anxiety. Whether that's because the masteron is in there as I don't know. But as far as cycles go, it I don't feel the negative mental effects when I've just run Primo and MPP on its own.
That's interesting. Maybe we've just found like a a miracle combo there. Girls, you heard it here first.
This is in context with the fact that, you know, Dan knows me and my blood work very, very well. So and being that we're trying to move up into women's bodybuilding from, Chaos is here. Hang on. This is where my laptop goes everywhere.
Right.
She's been over the gym training back, I think. So go and settle down then. Good girl. So it's in context of Dan knowing my body, my blood work very, very well, and with the goal that we're trying to achieve. It's not suggesting that, you know, anyone out there that's wanting to make a transition from one category to another should be banging in all three of those compounds. It has to be something that it's specific to you and your blood work and the goal that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, for sure.
So if I
People run before they can walk.
That's true.
They do.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So if I go anywhere near MPP, I want to jump off a bridge. That was really horrible. Like last time it was for my debut prep, and we ran it, and I ran MPP, like that was like my go-to compound for a long time. And then it just got to my Legions prep and I just couldn't hack it. Like I was a completely different person. It was really weird. Like I was actually speaking to James Hollingshead about it yesterday, and the fact that he's got certain compounds that he couldn't use, and we started just chatting about it. And like MPP, just that prep just completely changed me. And I don't really know why, but like it was really, really strange. The minute I took it out, I was fine. It's really odd. So I won't go near it now.
2 days of pinning it, Dan doesn't want to be a bodybuilder anymore.
Yeah, and it was like
he can't. He's like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't think I want to do this. Don't want to be a bodybuilder anymore. And it's like that's not you.
Yeah, because even Lise was like speaking to Tom, and she was like, "That's not Sara." And then we had a chat about it, and we're like, "Oh shit, it was actually the MPP." So yeah, we removed it. It's horrendous. But then it just comes back to Romana's point, where like every individual is different, and you know we use different compounds for different things, and like you know the MPP works really well for her, doesn't work for me, might work for you guys. Like it's just so individual to that person and what you want to achieve from that compound. Like, so yeah, just MPP is grim.
I think as well, because I remember, sorry, you put a post out and you were like, I'm using Anavar and Primo, I think, and you said, look, I know people don't use orals in off season, but I do. And it's like, again, it's like, who's someone else to tell you what you should be using in your off season if that combination works for you? And as you've just outlined, this is my goals, this is why I'm using it, it works well for me. But you get all of these fucking people, and it's like,
too much to say.
Mm.
Too much to say. I think sometimes, I only had this the other day, some people just love to hear the sound of their own voice. And it's like, can you not just shut up for 2 minutes, do your own thing and mind your own business? Like whatever you say is genuinely in one or out the other. Either way, you're not along this journey with me. You're not doing my blood work. You're not looking after me. You're not eating my meals. You cannot comment on what I take. Simple as, do you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
choose to look.
Exactly. Just shit. I was going to say just shit down. I meant to say just sit down.
Just shit down.
Shit down.
Just sit down and shit up.
We also said we would
the episode.
We also said we'd talk a bit about reversing out. Obviously, this time of year, a lot of people are reversing out. And back to our conversations of remember when you're reversing out at this time of year and it's like fucking dark at 4 o'clock and you're like, already. And it's like, oh my God, it's freezing. Now, reversing out wise, we've obviously spoken about it a bit before, but I think that'd be cool with Meckela with us, and all of us are obviously in off season. Mana, you're in a bit of a
I'm eating. I'm off season. I'm not dieting anymore.
I'm advertised resensitization, nighttime, daytime routine.
We're full on eating again, but it's just I can't eat too much because I can't eat.
Yeah. Well, it raises a valid point actually, because in the reverse out, it's not always, I know historically a lot of people, it's like my appetite is through the fucking roof, I could eat a horse. However, I've experienced times where my appetite is suppressed, and I think Sarah, you have as well, where and maybe psychologically as well, you're like, I want to stay lean.
Yeah.
There's that element, but psychologically, it's not always that we want to eat loads. Sometimes it's more of that sort of restriction realm. I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah, like I think for me, like it's kind of come about more so as I've kind of moved into my career, and the fact that I like, how do I explain it? So it's like I don't really want to eat. Like I'd much rather kind of, and I think it all comes with the fact that I love competing, I love being on stage. And yes, I know what the reasons are for going into off season. It's really important that we know that each phase has a purpose. But I think when I come off stage, I just want to relive that moment over and over again. And yeah, I think that's why I like to stay lean as long as possible, because I just liked being on stage. But then again, like I said, like I know the reasons as to why we have to come out of that position, because we can't stay competition lean all year round. Obviously, that's unhealthy and it's just not doable. So it's always remembering about, okay, so why are we putting on weight now because of X, Y, and Z, and we're not going to improve later down the line if we don't put body fat back on our frame and start moving into our off season, because we can't grow if we're constantly in a deficit. So, but yeah, I think it's honestly just the correlation between being on stage and being lean. It's just something that I love to do. And I think when you see a kind of like the stage move away, you're like, oh, but then you realize
know.
you've got to improve, you know?
Yeah, you sort of go through. I think that initial like you say, you've just come off stage, and if it's the end of your season, it's going to depend on potentially where you've placed and what your expectations were, etc. But it's like I might not be reliving that again for like 2 or 3, and that seems so long away. But then it's like I think as well, when you prep to the nature all of us do, there comes a point where it's like I don't know if I could actually carry on, right? Like where you're like like you're in pain most of the time because of how far we do go. So I
I
think
remember like looking
yeah,
at Tom last year after Alicante and just being like, I'm done. Like I just feel like a toxic waste bin. Like I need to step away and I need to focus on health, because I'm sure we all know that feeling where you're just like, I'm sure my insides are yellow now. So I
yeah,
need to stop. Yeah. And
Things
we just
like
I just have to fly
I,
toilet a few seconds. Few seconds. I
I
can't
find
stop
things
breathing.
like that toxic feeling that you mentioned, Sarah. I get things like spots that won't heal, cuts
yeah,
that won't heal. And it's like, I don't know, part of it's probably the calorie deficit. Your body doesn't have the energy to put towards healing that because you're training and you're still depleted. But part of me is also like, is it a toxic environment that is resulting in the spots to start off with, the
yeah.
hormonal imbalance, and then the lack of healing on top of that? It does, yeah, that feeling when you have been in a deficit for last year when I finished prep for the O, it was just like it took me until January, February to feel back to normal. And it's
Yeah.
just remembering with that wanting to stay in that lean state, how much longer that takes to wash off.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's
Yeah.
freaking
And
horrible.
it's funny, like I actually had this conversation with a couple of my clients who are reversing out now, where they're like 3 weeks post show and they're still like, oh, I'm still really tired. And it will take months for you to return back to normal. You've just got to remember it. Like just take it one day at a time, because then you'll be able to say, okay, that's one day done, move on to the next, because it will take months for you to feel like a normal human being again. And I say to everyone, like, no matter how often you're competing, whether you're a pro, whether you're an amateur, reversing never gets easier. You can just accept what happens a little bit better, and you can know how to control things a little bit better. Like just little tiny things that you do day to day, like knowing how to just keep the routine or implementing certain things to help you kind of, stay a little bit saner through the reverse period. Like I think a lot of people think the minute you're a pro, or if you've done 6, 7, 10 shows, it gets easier, when theoretically it doesn't. You just know how to handle it a little bit better.
yeah, for sure. I even say this to photo shoot clients, like, you can get pretty lean for a photo shoot, right? And I'm like, they say like a week later, I feel better. And I'm like, in probably like maybe it might be 6 to 8 weeks or sometimes longer, depending on how lean they got. But I'm like, you're messaging me and you're saying, oh, I feel normal now. Like, I'll be waiting for that message, because it's actually like, and every single client, like every single client I get lean, it happens because it's like, you think that you feel normal as well. And particularly this first time, like it's just, I don't know, no one around me has ever been able to, like, Matt and I are obviously very, very close, but no one can console that. Like it's an internal thing for me. I just go, and yeah, there's just so much with it. It's hard to put into words, isn't it? Because I feel like you do need some time on your own as well. Like I'll go for walks and I'll be quite detached, you know, and I think that that's okay.
That's normal though.
About that, we were talking about this earlier. There's something about being in a low body fat state that creates a vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it's not like a mental vulnerability. It's that low body fat environment that makes it's like ingrained evolutionary psychological standpoint that your body is kind of protecting itself because of the low body fat state, making you feel that vulnerability. And that makes me want to just be quiet on my own. But it's also remembering in that reverse point that it doesn't matter how much you eat, doesn't matter how much you binge, that body fat is not going to come on just like that. And it's the low body fat that is making you feel all the feels. It's not the food. And yeah, you could sit and gorge yourself for 5 days, but on that sixth day, you're not actually going to feel physically any better. Yeah, your stomach's going to be full, but now you're going to have the emotional guilt of what you did binge eating wise. And you're still in that low body fat environment, probably with a fuck ton of water as well. It just ends up in a mess. So as hard as it is to kind of go, I cannot eat the world, you kind of have to stick to it. I was talking to another mate of mine, Rebecca Warren, who does a lot of work with eating, with a lot of eating disorder patients, and she was talking about the sort of refeeding syndrome, and I didn't realize, and I think I'll have to re-listen to her message to get the specifics from it again, but it was along the lines of it's the same with prep as anorexics to an extent. When they're recovering, you'll eat and your body will start laying body fat around your organs rather than the subcutaneous body fat. And obviously visceral fat being bad, we don't want fat around our organs. So that kind of binging cycle does really need to be controlled.
I think reversing is also a mindset as well. Like I think you're after being prepping for so long, just because you've achieved standing on stage and then reversing now, you can't control that hunger. Like you've prepped for so long. It's more so of that freedom. I think people let go of the goal, especially people that only stand on stage once and they reverse, but they reverse really fucking bad because they don't have a goal set in place and they don't want to go any further with competitive bodybuilding. And then I sometimes find that when they start chitting on bodybuilding, saying like, oh, this done this to me and this done this to me, and it's like, no, you just actually didn't control yourself enough post-show. You didn't have a goal set in place post-show. You didn't want to go any further post-show. And I find the people that do have goals and do want to go further in competitive bodybuilding, they do actually reverse really, really well because they know, right, I need to take my time and not rush this build. Reason being is you're going to fucking feel so shit. So shit. I find when people rush the field too quick too soon, that's not giving yourself that open runway for progression because you're cutting that short, having to mini cut, reset and go again. I find like if you just progressively increase calories slowly, that's what's going to put you into a better place physically and mentally. Like again, I actually don't know how long I am post show, and it's only this week where I've seen body fat come on. Like I was still so fucking lean for so long. I don't know what. Oh, 2 months, have we?
Tomorrow, because it was my birthday, so I remember.
See, I don't even know, but I remember looking and I was like, I still should. I can't understand how only this week I've seen, right, there's body fat. I know I needed it because I didn't feel like even sitting on machines and your fucking arse bone is still sticking in. It's like, just put a bit of fat on, please. I think as well because we took things really fucking slow. Obviously, we bumped food post show, but we took it progressively slow. Like we weren't an arsehole, but because I was so lean, my body was just burning through. Even Christian was like, I can't give you any more food. But I knew that going into this reverse that I couldn't escalate. No, I wouldn't anyway. I knew I was going in with the same mindset that I had in prep. That I am going to be ravenous. I still am now with the amount of food I'm on. But I just need to control that the way I did in prep. And I think if you go into your off season with that mindset, it's a lot easier. You're not phased by food. Like food's not going anywhere. It's still there. It's like, do you actually want to achieve and set yourself up for a good off season, or you can take the other route and then cut it short. And then you're constantly resetting, going, resetting, going, resetting, going. Where if you actually take your time, give yourself that open runway, take your time, food is gonna be there. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a mindset. You've prepped for what, 20 plus weeks for some people. You control the hunger throughout the whole prep. Just because it's over now doesn't mean that you can't control. You still can. You just have a little bit more freedom. Like, do you know what I mean? I find people just, oh, food. What am I going to eat post-show? And it's like, that's the wrong mindset to be in. What you're going to eat post-show is the wrong mindset you're going to be in, because that's when you binge, and you blow up. So it's really not that difficult. Just put yourself in a good mindset and accept that you're going to be hungry. You didn't prep. You accept that you're going to be hungry. So transfer that into your off season, you'll be completely fine.
Yeah.
I think as well, you sort of can tell yourself that you want certain things. Like I used to when I first started out. I mean, I hadn't ever done anything like this. And that first prep, I was watching so much food porn, baking programs and everything else. And then like that carried on for the first few years. And I don't do it now. I'll watch like Bake Off or something, but like I won't look at food porn and things like that. You know, when I'm really in the depths there, because I think I'm winding myself up. And some people can still watch it and they're fine with it. And that's not me saying you shouldn't. But if there's certain things that are going to maybe lead to the reverse out being harder, so environment, pressures from family, etc., now I'm sure we're all fine at going, look, fucking leave me alone. But you know, in the early days, it's not as easy as that. You know, when my mum's like, "Oh, please have a nice meal," like you sort of feel bad, and you go through all these. You know, you've like you said, Mano, you're vulnerable, so you're vulnerable to pressures also, and it's quite difficult, isn't it? When everyone's like, "You should do this," and you should outside of bodybuilding, and when you're new to it, you're like, "But it won't do me any harm," and then these sort of binge restrict cycles and things can happen without you even realizing, right?
Definitely.
It's scary.
Just be surrounded by good people, or if you can't surround yourself with good people, just be happy on your own. Like honestly, like you don't need cheerleaders to achieve it. I think that's what people find hard as well. It's like, well, I have nobody. Well, that's fine. You should be happy on your own anyway. If you have nobody, be happy on your own. You can still achieve that. And then you're like, no support, and I'm like, reach out and you get support.
My first 4 years of bodybuilding, it was like I was single, I had an unsupported mother, and I moved around a lot, so my friendship groups weren't exactly big. And I still achieved what I wanted to achieve. And sometimes, you know, the cheerleaders can kind of almost, I think, sometimes add to that sense of maybe a bit of disillusion when you don't get the result that they think you should get, when it's effectively, no offense to anyone's family members, but, you know, is your mum, brother, dad, dog really the best person to know actually whether you're going to win a bodybuilding show or not? Unless they're a bodybuilder or a judge, probably not. Doesn't mean that they're not saying it with the best of intentions. It's just slightly misguided. And if you're allowing that to kind of cloud the actual truity of why that result happened, then it's probably going to just perpetuate into that post-reverse kind of post-show blues, which can then itself trigger unhealthy eating habits.
And mental side of things too. I think that's like, I don't know, I find like, obviously you see on social media, males are very open about the emotional side about bodybuilding, etc., etc. I don't find like females are either. I feel like we get post-show blues too. I was in the prep files last week and I was like, ew, I have just gone fat full. I feel like if you're not, I suppose, again, as I said, it correlates back into support systems. Like people find like, oh no, I'm mentally gone post show. Now, obviously, we get that, like we do, like everyone gets that. That's completely fine. But the ones that go really deep and dark, I find like they're just not reaching out enough. Like for that support system, they don't have that support system. They're just not vocalizing it enough. I find.
It's also important to remember that at the end of a prep, your hormones are in the fucking toilet. So that is going to have a massive impact on your mood, your energy, like your fatigue. Energy and fatigue, I guess, are the same thing. But ultimately, like if you think about your menstrual cycle and the fluctuations in your hormones and how that impacts your mood, well, then magnify that in a post-prep situation where whether you're enhanced or not, a deficit as a female will cause a natural shutdown of your hormone production. And what's that going to make you feel? Like shit. So it's multifactorial ultimately, and it's like you say, Meckela, it's just sticking to that plan, controlling what you can control, and not being a dick with it. It's just going to make it the whole process. Instead of fighting the process, go with the process like you did with prep.
I feel like people fail to accept that. They fail to accept the truth sometimes. And it's like, listen, you fucking prepped for X amount of time. You cannot turn around and tell me that you can't control yourself for a few weeks post-show. Your food is gonna be bumped. You just have to be patient with it. Like, regardless of who you are, what category you're in, or how lean you are, we all need to have that sense of control post-show, because it can go one way or another, and then you can kind of completely lose the love for bodybuilding. And as I said, like, people that don't go further along the line, they always have something to say about bodybuilding, but then you have the other half that actually stick the plan, control it, and actually enjoy post-show. Then I think, like, when you have that sense of acceptance, you enjoy the post-show and you're like, right, this week, yes, food hasn't been bumped. Has strength been up? Yes, it has. Has milk been up? Yes, it has. Everything else increases. Like, it doesn't have to be solely focused on food. You kind of focus on getting yourself physically back to some way normal. That's what I find. Like, and I suppose even going out and getting like hair done or something like that, having other focuses rather than, because I'm prep, obviously you're solely focused on standing on stage, where post show, like, it doesn't solely have to be focused on bumping that food and bumping that food, bumping that food. Like, go and do other things, like go to cinema like you haven't been in so long, or go get your nails done, or go get your hair done, do something like that.
Karting.
Dancing.
Karting. I don't know why that came to my head.
I
think
dancing.
Dancing. Yeah. Fucking hell. You don't want to see me dancing. 2 left feet, blimey. But I think, like, if you are struggling, it's okay. It's not a badge of honor to kind of push yourself through that post-prep stage, struggling and not speak to anyone. You know, talk to your family, your friends, talk to your coach, talk to people you know in the bodybuilding community. Like you said, Meckela, reach out.
Yeah.
That's the thing though, like, and I had this conversation with someone the other day, like, when people are like, oh, you know, I'm getting too fat in my reverse, blah, 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 because I saw at X, Y, and Z, they're only 2 pounds up from their stage weight, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, you are an individual. I'm 80 kilo, like 82 kilos, and my stage weight's about 60. Does that make me a bad bodybuilder? No. Like, why are so many people so focused on being 2, 3, 4 pounds up on my stage weight? Like, who gives a fuck? Like, they're doing what they want to do, but my process, my approach to what I want to do in my reverse mouth season is how I do things. So I think, again, like, social media plays such a massive role in this, in sort of tarnishing what the scale says, when realistically, especially as women, we need fat on our bodies to have that hormonal balance and production. Like, we can't stay super lean all year round. And yes, some coaches may prefer to keep their athletes leaner in their off season, but personally, like, from my own experience and what I've seen from coaches, like, having body fat on me allows me to perform at my best ability, grow at my best ability, like, be happy, like, because, you know, leaner, because we're in that deficit, you know, brain fog, all that stuff, we all know that very well. Like, and it's just so important to not be so focused on what fucking Dan's doing, or what fucking Cody, whatever, like, doesn't matter, like, or what Founder's doing. Like, so many people get so ingrained in social media. Like, focus on your journey and your journey alone. Like, I've seen it so much when people are complaining about the fact that they're 10 pounds over stage weight. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, as long as you're happy with how you're doing, as long as you're performing as you should do, and as long as you trust your coach or whatever's going on, like, your journey is your journey, and that's who you should be focusing on. It really fucking annoys the shit out of me when I see people so ingrained in what other people are doing. Like, just focus on yourself. I think that is so important. Like, it's yeah, because I've seen it so often recently when, with all these reverses going on, like, who gives a fuck whether they're 2 pounds up on the stage rate? Like, that's their approach, whatever. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, then they use it
I
as
think-
a flex, and it's hard for us being coaches as well for our clients. It can be hard for us at that period of time when we're reversing out, and particularly in the past, not, you know, in recent years, but in the past, that sort of thing would fuck me up. But also, and this is why I do it, I actually share where because I'm nearly 25 kilos up, so I share that, and I'm like, look, this is because I got so lean, right? Like, it's wild that I'm 25 kilos up, but I share it for that reason, because I'm trying to actually make it more of a positive. Like, this is a positive for me. I'm trying to gain muscle here. Don't hide away. Don't be scared. Like, and I don't mean don't as in no one's gonna, but it's like we're trying to actually help our community and stop this for sort of like, oh yeah, I'm only, like you say, £2 up, £4 up. Okay, cool. But what about those fucking people that aren't? And also it depends how lean you got. Some people haven't got as lean and maybe they've gained weight a bit quicker. So it's really hard for those people, right? And it really puts people in this really hard mindset. So I completely understand what you're saying, Sarah.
But that goes
I was
again
gonna
with
say, I think
PDs. With PDs, like you see females like, well, she took X, Y, and Z. She took X, Y, and Z. Why are you worried? Like she could probably take less than you and still look better than you. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be PEDs all the time. I find that I've seen that a lot lately and say, oh, well, she took X, Y, and Z and she took this and she took that. Doesn't matter. Did she look good? If she didn't, then it would probably say it doesn't matter what she took. Did she look good on the day? Potentially did. Like I got that when I cut off stage at the pro qualifier. I got loads of great messages, but there was messages there. Now I have them screenshotted, so I was like, right, you fucking chat it about me again. I'm gonna put them on Instagram and fucking call you out. I got messages saying, oh, you only look that good because you took X, Y, and Z. You only got into that condition because you took X, Y, and Z. And I'm like,
All right, mate.
mate, I'm only brand new to the PD scene. I took minimum, and Christian will hold his hand up as well. When I showed people my what I took, they were like, that's amateur. And I was like, I know, because I'm only an amateur. Like I literally stop focus. It doesn't solely have to be focused on what you're taking. First of all, are you even eating well?
it's also,
well?
I was going to say, it's like, it doesn't matter. You could stick fucking grams in yourself, but if you just sit on the sofa, you're not going to get lean.
Yeah.
There's so much additional work that goes on behind this. It's not about,
especially in the bigger girls. Like
as if that's how she got so shredded.
Yeah, I swear I have to show you some messages. Like I have them there, so I'll show you. But I was like, I'm sorry, I just wasn't squatting my arse off and fucking leg pressing for no reason. Like I just randomly got in condition. Let's fuck it, Christian. We'll jump on the show. Like, are you delusional? And this was coming from bodybuilders. Bodybuilders, I say that in quotation marks because obviously you haven't a clue. If you said I only got into that condition because of X, Y, and Z, bodybuilders. But then again, I think that comes from when, particularly males, but females, they think, right, oh, she's in a bigger class. Can you imagine the amount of gear she's on? Like, sorry.
That was something. A particular coaching group put up a video about the drug cycles that WPD athletes use and how much they use. And it's like, well, as a coach, you saying that would suggest that you're putting your girls on that much. It's not the same for fucking all of us. Like
individual. I laugh when I look back at the prep, what I took in prep. I'm laughing because I'm like, it's actually fucking minimum. Like minimum. I was like, well,
no matter how many people you say, oh, I took this and that was it, they're gonna be like, nah, you're lying. Because there's no in between where you're pleasing people and you're not pleasing people. No one will ever believe you. But if you say, actually, I took this and it was, say, theoretically, it was a lot, people will be like, oh, there's something wrong with you. But then if you say, I'm not taking anything, they're like, oh, there's something wrong with you. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's no...
You took well more.
Yeah, you're lying.
You're a liar.
you would walk to somebody and say, well, how much did you drink at the weekend? Oh, you're lying. Well, maybe as a paramedic I would have done, but it's nobody cares how many shots you have in a weekend. So why does it fucking matter what we are or aren't using? Am I hurting anybody else? No. The only person I am likely to hurt is myself, and if I understand the risks, then I am okay with that. Yeah. And that should be the same for anybody else out there. It's like you shouldn't feel pressured to use or not use because of what other people say. It should be your own decision and your own risk, reward, benefit, axis, however you want to phrase it.
You need to be mindful as well. I think we are a lot more aware of health than most people are anyway. Yeah. With blood work all of the time. Like, do you know what I mean? That's what I say to people, like, do you not realise how aware I am? Like, I get blood work done every 3 months purely because I work in a medical centre. I just randomly, I'm just like, oh, just check the bloods, just to check them. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, but my bloods came back post-show better than they've ever come back. So if I was taking X, Y, and Z, I'm pretty sure 6 weeks post-show they would be absolutely skewed, and they weren't. So I mean, you can never win. You either do or you don't.
You.
No.
I also have, I just remembered, I have another compound to ask you about related to that question that I asked you all. So with tests, so I'm guessing we're all on fem tests. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I personally wouldn't recommend male tests for females. I know that sometimes it's a thing. Any thoughts, for the listeners, if anyone has been, looking at this or been told to take it? I thought it'd be a good topic.
I had I ran out of the Viola Fem test that I had been using probably since this time last year, not long after prep. I think it was probably about 6 weeks after prep. And I kind of noticed a steady decline in motivation for about 4 weeks, to the point where I was like, we'd started our diet that didn't really end up being a diet. And I remember Dan had been away the weekend. He'd come back and it was like, right, cardio, are you going to go over and do? I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to do this. I don't want to train. I don't want to do anything. I literally just want to sit on the sofa. My motivation and mood were just through the fucking floor. It was that classic, dedication kept me going to the gym. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have. And it took about 2 weeks for me to kind of go, I wonder if it's anything to do with my fem test. Dan had a batch of his tested, lots of tests in this. So he'd had some of his tests and amplate tested. We were having a conversation over dinner and I was like, you're not going to like it, but how do you feel about me using your batch tested testosterone to see if it was the fem test that was? I didn't think it was completely bunk, but I thought it might have been unintentionally underdosed. So we switched over and I'm talking injecting, like, it's very, very hard to measure. And I would not recommend this to everybody, because with the level that I'm at, if I end up with a little bit higher testosterone, I'm not bothered by that. But as an amateur or as somebody who maybe at some point wants children, who doesn't want to fuck up their hormones, I don't recommend it. But I'm literally injecting 0.01 mil of an insulin syringe for my testosterone at the moment. And it's my motivation's come back, the fatigue's reduced, I feel so much better in myself, my joint pain reduced. But saying that, I did have a bloodwork client come to me for a bloodlet, and I was like, this is unusual, a female wanting a bloodlet. It's very rare. I think, hand on heart, the only other person I've bloodlet, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying, is you, Sara. The only other female that I've bloodlet is you. Yeah. So it was like, this is odd. Anyway, lady turns up doing a bloodlet, starts chatting, and she basically had been put on test by her previous coach, but they hadn't specified fem test. So they had told her how many mil to take, presuming that they would have got fem test, but without actually saying to them take fem test. And I think we worked out that they were on 75 milligrams of testosterone a week as a female. Luckily for her, this is a female who no longer wants children, has adult children. So as far as any hormonal repercussions, it wasn't that big affected, but she did end up with thick blood that needed a bloodlet. And doing a bloodlet on somebody like Sara, who has big arms, big veins, how it felt for you, I don't know. But to do that on a person with decent thick veins is quite easy. For this particular client, they weren't as heavily muscled, their veins weren't as big, and it couldn't have been a very pleasant experience for her, because the needle size for a bloodlet is significantly bigger than a blood test. It's a big old hole. So that is my experience, but I really do not try this at home, kids.
Do you find that there's a lot of misinformation in regard to coaches just prescribing tests for females?
Say that again.
Do you find there's a lot of misinformation and not any sort of precaution taken into consideration when it comes to coaches prescribing fem tests for females?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience with, people that I know that have been recommended to use male testosterone, they've said, I don't really give a shit about virilization. For me, I'm not coaching them, but I'll say, I'll try and have a conversation and just lay it out with not stepping over boundaries. You know, my thoughts, girls. I get the heebie-jeebies with giving advice with someone being coached, but you know, I just try and say, you know, are you sure? Do you understand virilization? Do you understand what can happen? Do you understand the symptoms? Is it just I don't really care, or is it that you actually understand it? And I feel like I often get quite a good response into like I didn't really understand it to that level, and maybe it helps thought provoke a little bit. But again, I don't like to sort of step on toes, as it were. But I also don't want to just not say anything. But yeah, a few times I've been asked and spoken about it.
Yeah, it
I've
is.
seen an increase in younger, I'm talking early 20s, being put on femtest for long periods of time,
Mm.
which I mean, it's up to the individual, it's up to the coach, it's up to their relationship. But from my perspective, it's like there needs to be caution with anybody that does at some point want to have children. Because if you are running an external hormone for a long period of time, it will suppress your natural production and can affect your fertility. It is easier to recover hormones in a female, but it's also, do you really want that risk? If children is something you definitely want in your future, then you're probably best staying well away until you have had those children,
Yeah,
because you never know.
Another
exactly.
I think another thought process as well, actually, that could be just popped in my mind, worth sort of touching on, is that when you compete natty at a young age, if you do that for a number of years, if your test gets tanked, well, natty at any age, but relating to what you said there, Mana, about younger girls starting fem test, I've come across a few of those recently as well, where it's like they've gone on to fem test after competing nattier for a few seasons and their test is tanked. But of course, then is there the consideration to things that you're talking about there as well?
I mean, a deficit is going to naturally suppress your hormone production, and there is research suggesting that continual low body fat environments for a female can increase the likelihood of early onset menopause, which is
Mm.
something that I experienced myself.
Oh,
Um, yeah, 2021. I don't know if it was because I was very lean as a CrossFitter. I then did that classic thing of, oh, I'm going to do the bodybuilding thing, and I don't want to get too soft in off season. I don't want to be one of those bodybuilders that gets really big in off season, because I didn't understand. I didn't understand the necessity of it. Um, so I was probably very, very lean from September 2018 until probably 2021. I was lean for quite a long period of time in my late 30s. So it was probably a mixture of both, and the long exposure to Anavar that just meant my hormones didn't recover. And I did give it quite a significant amount of time before starting femtest, because that's the other thing. It's like if you come out of the diet and you're getting your blood work done 4 weeks post show, that's not really enough time for your own hormones to recover. So no, the answer is not just whacking femtest to get you back to feeling normal. You've got to go through that period and see if your hormones naturally recover. Because if you then start implementing femtest at that point, you could end up being reliant on it. It's that difference between, are you using testosterone as hormone replacement, or are you using testosterone as an anabolic? So it's not a case of putting a female on femtest and leaving them there indefinitely as anabolic. It's for a hormone replacement therapy, then arguably maybe that is, for me, that's been the way. Because if you take, it's evidenced by the times when I've had either bunked femtest or I've run out, that I just crash, and I need that. But like, I'm going to be 40 next year. I don't want children. So zero fucks given about my hormonal balance, to be perfectly honest. I've never wanted children. Um, but yeah, it's a game that, something Dave talks about a lot is how female infertility, how we're going to see like a crisis in it in years to come from people that are in their early 20s. And it can be said for the calorie deficit as well as the femtest, but there is going to be issues with fertility for these poor women that don't necessarily know or understand that that is an implication of what they're doing in their early 20s.
yeah, yeah.
And do you find that's due to people, the lack of honesty when it comes to the whole PD exposure? Do you think that's why kind of females find that?
I think as
I
well
don't know
being
if it's that,
scared
or
to talk about like maybe that it's a negative. It's still quite taboo, isn't it? Even though we're in it, it's like, I come across people that are, worried about their parents finding out, their partner finding out. I'm sure you will do as well. And it's like,
Oh, my mum know you, she'd kill me.
yeah, I mean, I was
Literally.
I was able to tell my mum, and I can jab in front of her and stuff. I'm very fortunate there because she's cool with it. I'm
I
just like,
legit think my mum
my
would try and
muscle.
get me sectioned.
Same. I don't speak to anyone.
I mean, it's a pretty
She
cool
would
dynamic. My
she
mum's
would
quite good
legit
at it, though.
march me down to fucking mental health hospital.
I think as well, for like, I sat down. I'm not saying that this would, revolutionize everyone's relationship with this scenario, but I sat down with mum and I was like, this is why I want to do it. This is what I'm going to do, and I think she's quite intrigued because I'm so intrigued by it, and I'm very lucky to be able to do that because I feel comfortable doing it. I don't like come in the room and I'm like, right, mum, I'm just going to do my steroids, but
Yeah.
if she walks in the
That's
kitchen,
mum.
I've got the fridge open, I'm
I
grabbing
mean,
whatever. She just walks past. She's
my
like,
mum freaked out when I lived at home. My mum freaked out when I started taking CBD oil because she was like, "That's cannabis." I'm out of interest, Sarah. How old is your mum?
so mum is 62.
So
Like a really hip.
I don't know. My mum's a very baby boomer. 70. What would she be? She'll be 72 next year. Where are we? No, 72 next year. And she is very much of that kind of mindset of she's the matriarch of the family. What she says is verbatim is law kind of thing. And it's not really a conversation that I could have with her because she doesn't like talking about bodybuilding in general. But like Dan's parents, I mean, it probably helps that Dan's dad was a bodybuilder as well. So there's an understanding in that regard. But Dan's mum, she knows more about my steroid usage than my own mum because I can't talk to her about it. Dan's been very open. She worries about him. She doesn't detract from any care, but there is that difference in her mindset that she is more open to the opinions that we are adult children now and we can make informed decisions ourselves. Whereas my mum's very much like, you're my child, you'll always be my child, therefore you are permanently stuck at age 8 and you can't cross the road independently. By the way, did you clean your teeth this morning? Let me check. That sort of shit. It's
I love
just
that
a different
adult child. I'm an adult child now, guys.
She will message me and she'll be like, hi baby, how you doing? And not as in baby like romantic, as in you're my baby, how are you doing? That kind of, and she'll call me like my childhood nickname and that sort of thing. It's very much, and it's
what's the nickname? What's the nickname?
Oh, Bub.
Oh, that's quite cute.
Yeah, that's cute.
Apparently it's Australian for like big. It's like a slang thing. Because when I was born, the gynecologist was Australian and said, cool, that's a big bub, because I was over 10 pounds, something like that. Soz mum.
My dad still calls me Pickle.
Pickle.
Yeah, he's always called me Pickle, yeah.
It's cool. Bub just makes like what? So you're saying hi, fatty?
Thanks, mum.
I think mine's probably just cunt. That cunt.
She's fucking starting again.
Honestly, I definitely think that's mine. That little bastard. Or something like that.
I love it in the Irish accent. It just sounds so much better. I love that.
I think it's so funny because people, when they see Americans, because I work in the medical sector too, and then we have Americans come in and it's like, oh my God, you're Irish? If they're leprechauns, it's like, are you not fucking real? Is that leprechauns?
Oh God. When we were in Chicago, they couldn't understand us, like, for some reason, and they struggled even more with Dan. And I don't know. I mean, he's got a slight East Anglian Essexy twang, but it's not really noticeable. I don't really think I've got an accent at all. But I think it's just the rate that we speak at. They just couldn't compute. Could I have a Diet Coke, please? You want a coat? Why do you want a coat? No, I want a Diet Coke.
Now, before we wrap up, let's ask. Well, I want to ask Sara as well. The first show has been announced for you in 2025, right?
Oh yeah. Well, we hope it's going to be a New York Pro, but obviously the calendar hasn't really been released. So I'm unsure because I was speaking to a couple of other pros whether New York is going to have women's physique. I don't know whether you heard the throw, but like past couple of years, it's been when Alyssa Kensington won the New York Pro. There was like 5 women there, and I think there was like 10 there last year. So I don't know whether they're struggling for sponsorship for physique for New York Pro, but I don't know. So.
They
hmm?
Even
have no
looked
flags.
because I'm not planning on competing until August realistically. So
Yeah, fair.
I hadn't looked, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, I
Because
hope
it's
so.
always been, it's always been a big hitting show. Like if you think what you had, didn't Natalia win it as well a couple of years ago,
Yeah, I think she's won it
possibly?
like twice in a row now.
And what's her face? Oh, she came third. Can't think. Sharonica. She won it this year.
Yeah, yeah. So fingers
Cross then.
it will still be in. If not, I'll probably try and go and do the Pittsburgh, but we'll kind of just it's the thing with the calendars, they get really so bloody late. Like you can't really but that's the
So I
plan.
kind of want to compete here, but I don't like because that's what I'm going with. It's like I know roughly the timescale that I want to compete, but I've no idea what shows because it all depends
Yeah.
what comes out. But that leads me to the question I got on
Oh,
Instagram.
yeah.
So if you could do a pose down with any Olympian, who would it be and why?
Dana Lynn
I want to do it with Samson. I'd do it with Samson, 100%.
Sarah, why? Why DLB?
Oh mate, because she's just such a like an amazing role model, and I grew up watching her and wishing that I was her. So need I say more?
Oh, no.
Why Samson's, Sarah?
I'm going to pose down with Samson because it would look
Why would
fucking
you?
sick.
It would look fucking hilarious, to be fair.
That's my
Michaela, what about
point.
you?
Oh, I can't fucking pose for shit, so I wouldn't even pose down with anyone.
That's
The mirror.
lies. That's
I would
lies.
probably go Christina.
If you pose like shit, does that mean your posing coach is shit?
By the way, Romana,
No, not at all. That's me. I remember getting to stage. I was like, oh
So you
shit.
did pose like shit.
I think Christina or I actually don't know. She's the only one that I genuinely know. I know she does bodybuilding, but I just think her physique, just how thick she is, and the way she poses
Yeah.
is just everything. Just everything.
Or even like Rachel Daniels, she would obliterate the fuck out of me with her posing.
I'd my part of me would love to pose down with Angie Eo because she's just fucking
yeah.
ace.
That'd be good.
I find it's really cool to look at somebody who's got that alternative edge doing so well as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also Sherry Piriani, because I met her at Chicago and she was the first person to kind of say to me, when are you going to get on the bodybuilding stage? And we're the same height. And that photo, I'm in a dress, so it's difficult to compare, but I just like to see upper-wise, we look quite similar. So it'd be interesting to see how we would actually look. And she gets nuts conditioned. Like there was a video she put up with Michaela Aycock, and Michaela's known for a fucking dice condition, and Sherry was just as conditioned. It was insane.
I think it's phenomenal when you see females with that level of condition, and it's like, it's just looking at it, it's like you can't even describe how these people, like, how conditioned they are. It's just
After Romania, I'd also like to add Koblova to that list
I
because
love Koblova.
her fucking posing routine was like, she could pull it off, but it was literally like she was dancing in a school disco to, I think it was either NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. And I was just like, fucking love it. She's like getting a groove on.
I was actually watching the Kai Green documentary as well the other day. I've literally watched all of them. And when he was doing all this stuff, I'm like, you are so fucking cool. And I wish that we could like do shit like that because it'd be so fun. Like just to fucking
You need to get on some fucking muscle so you can get out bikini then.
I know. It's just so hard because my physique, I've always been told that I'm suited to bikini, but Like as
Break
we've
the stigma, move up.
yeah, I'm like, oh, you know, and obviously I am pushing, you know, I've done my exposure on Primo. I'm pushing more muscle now. So I'm like, when people ask me, I'm like, we'll see. But I would love to be a real muscle sister.
Yeah. Well,
You're quite a bit taller than the rest of us, though, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, so I'm like 5'6.5".
So you've got that disadvantage, whereas us short fucks over here.
Honestly, truth
We
is
will see.
height.
We will see. Obviously, maybe my risk reward will be introducing the trend, but we'll leave it there for today, girls. And
Doing eyeball. It's got to be in the eyeball in a female, or it doesn't work.
what the kneecap.
So I joke about this, right? The amount of times I've been pinning Dan, and
in the eyeball.
sometimes he'll use intraocular trend. I attribute to my growth last off season. Like be pinning him, and you know where the pressure in the syringe is too much for the lumen of the needle, and the syringe pops off. The amount of times I've done that and literally just got Tren and God knows what else to the face.
I love that. When I met Samson the other day, I was like, oh my God. Like, if he's sweating or anything near me, does this mean I'm going to be anabolic as fuck? Come out with these things. Matt's always just like, yeah, whatever.
Go around with buckets collecting it. I'm just collecting your sweat.
Sweat on me, sweat on me, touch me. Chasing more muscle, I must admit, it's very addictive. Like I am loving it. Like having actual muscle. I know, obviously, in bikini you do have, but I'm virgin. Like this is, I've never been this muscular, and it's fucking sick. It's so.
How awesome was it to meet Samson?
Oh, yeah, it was so cool, and he spoke a lot about, you know, well, him, both of them, of course, because obviously they're a coaching pair, but about, you know, how the quality of coaching has diminished over the years, and a lot of coaches are sort of, they've got hundreds and hundreds of clients, and it's very money driven, etc., etc. And what they were saying, it was quite surreal, because it's a lot of what we speak about, you know, like in the coaching space and what happens, and nourishing athletes and that personal touch, and what they're striving to sort of put as a message out into the industry. That was a really big take home. And they were almost quite passionate about talking about the quality of coaching, and what we should be giving athletes to get the best out of athletes as individuals. So no copy and paste shit.
Dan saw them the week before at a gym near us, and I couldn't go because I was working for eval. And he asked the question about their coaching dynamic and the comments that she has received from certain people. And I didn't realise that not only has she been there been derogatory comments about how on earth can a woman coach a man. Well, she's not only coached a man, she's made him win the fucking be all and end all of bodybuilding. So stick that in your pipe and fucking smoke it. But there was also derogatory comments about her physique.
Yeah.
And this is coming from retired bodybuilders who also, they literally look like a fat scrotum. Like glass houses shouldn't throw stones. It doesn't matter what the fuck you look like if you're the coach. It's what your client looks like. And quite clearly, she's able to do what she needs to do because he's only fucking won Mr. Olympia.
Yeah,
like,
people just love to hear the sound of their own voice. And it's like, just be quiet. Shut up. That.
And ultimately, you've got fucking sour grapes because a woman has done what you couldn't do with that client. That is why you got your knickers in a fucking twist.
And that's
like gender is irrespective. You can, like, if you know that body and you know that person, you can coach them.
Yeah, this is where their message. No, but that's where their message was coming from. They were like, you know, they were like, I don't understand how coaches have so many clients. Like, how is that even possible? But also, I did ask her that question because you said ask about it, and I was like, I'm going to do Mana proud. So I was like, how have you dealt with the comments? And she said she was, you know, in a hole for a number of weeks because it really hit her hard, and you don't see this stuff, but. You know, and I said to them, what do you sort of do with the social media stuff and what have you? And Samson sort of came in and he was just like, you're never going to please everybody. And it's hard at the time. Like, unless you've actually faced abuse, then you can't really comment. But you know, you actually then have to decide what you consume, if you read it, if you reply, etc. So like Sara, where you have your other half deleting comments before you see them and stuff. It's smart, right? It's not because you don't want to, you can't deal with them. It's like, actually, I don't need that shit, you know?
Yeah, don't need it. I mean, even like some people in like certain group chats that I'm in were like, yeah, she's obviously getting help from someone else. No, actually, she's
Why?
doing it all herself. Like, and
Why
then when
is
she
that
won, it was
fucking
just like,
obvious?
you want to say anything else? Like, a woman just beat all you bastards. Like, she's
Like,
technically the best coach on the planet at the moment. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
you're purely justifying that she must have had help on the fact that she has a uterus.
But she's a
Like
female.
that is your only justification. The fact she has a uterus, ovaries, and breasts. Like that is not a justification as to why somebody can or can't do something. It's
yeah,
2020 fucking four. Get with the times. Ah,
Oh,
It's the
yeah,
same though when you see like males comment on females at muscle. They always those the little wieners in the corner with little comments. And it's like, does it bother you? Like, does it bother you that a female has more muscle than you?
I
yeah,
know.
What is the issue?
we'll just set Irish muscle lover on them all.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, I was just,
Oh,
Pinned
he
out
is
Irish
the
must love it.
cutest.
Also, shout out to him because I know he's going through a bit of a rough time. So if you happen
Yeah,
to have any interaction with him, give him some love because he does do a lot to promote us
he does.
bigger females and females in bodybuilding in general. So he's not a schmore, he's not a creep.
He's
He's just
lovely.
very appreciative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's such a lovely guy.
He
So
always
just
he's
be
always the
kind.
first to comment, isn't he? Like when you see
Yeah.
kind of comments, he's always the first to respond, and I'm just like, you're actually so cute, so cute.
He used to be a comedian, so that explains the quick wit and the
Ah.
sharp tongue. Yeah,
he
it's
can represent us.
if I that's my new tactic now. If I get a comment I don't like, I just tag him and go, any thoughts at Irish Muscle Lover and just go and have fun with that.
Do you ever wonder though? Do you ever sit and wonder? I'd love to be like when people comment stupid shit like that. I'd love to genuinely sit down with them and be like, where was the logic behind that? Like, were you so deprived from female attention when you were younger that you need to attack other females to get that attention from? It's like, where does it come from? Like, just because we're bodybuilders doesn't mean that we're not fucking female, you knob jockey. Seriously, like,
I love it.
If you're that bothered by females in general, there's a massive incel community out there. I suggest you focus your attention and effort into integration with them because we do not want your we just fuck off.
Maybe
go
it's the
drop
rise
yourself
of the
somewhere.
female coaches now. The female coaches are going to come in. We're going to take over the world.
Absolutely. Mike Van Wyck, everyone. Shut up, you.
Now, of course, we are all coaches. Meckela, do you coach competitors and lifestyle? What's the setup there, just in case anyone listens and they want to reach out?
Lifestyle and photo shoot prep. I wouldn't go competitive route simply because I don't have enough knowledge behind me to do so.
Mhm.
So I would never take on until I'm a lot more confident in the bodybuilding realm and prepping someone for a bodybuilding show. No,
Yeah,
I wouldn't do that to someone. I wouldn't.
yeah. It's always that's why like for years I was like, no way. And then getting the education, working with
Yeah.
people, photo shoots is very good. And then you get obviously you'll compete again and you build up your confidence. So
Yeah.
good call there, my G. And Sara and Romana, are you taking on clients at the moment?
Absolutely. Black sale on Friday. Everything is
Everything's the same price.
20%.
if you acquire, there will be a charge.
I'm indeed taking on clients, but I am planning on capping them fairly soon because I've started doing a lot more with bloodwork reporting for eval, and I'm falling in love with it. I'm falling down the hormone blood marker rabbit hole. And yeah,
Yeah, love it.
I saw I had my blood study. I think you might have been on the stage at the FitX thing on the weekend when I went to go get my blood done.
yes.
And Dave was just in the corner like, ugh. And I was like, Dave, like, ugh. Oh, nice, Dave.
It's literally like
Like a gremlin in the corner. I was like, nice. Because I asked it, what's the name of his missus?
Anna.
Yeah, I
It's a
asked her, I was
Shauna.
like, oh, throw her around, and she was like, no, don't really know where she went. I was like, okay, like, because I was gonna come and ask you to do my bloods, but I think you were on the stage, and then I just saw Dave, and I was like, classic Dave face then.
like Bloodwork.
Yeah, he looks grumpy, but he's not really. He's a big
And if he likes
softie,
you,
and he'll
it's
hate me for saying that. Yeah. He likes you, he'll probably insult you and take the piss out of you.
then you know he likes you, yeah.
That means he likes you.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I got dragged up onto the FitFX stage with who was there? Can't remember his surname, but his Instagram's Mark Enzone, classic pro.
Oh yeah.
Tom Coleman, which was interesting because I followed Tom for years, mainly because of his bulldog, and then Reese and Sanaya as well, and they were just. We ended up going down quite a rabbit hole about the negatives of bodybuilding, to be honest, which wasn't. I don't think that was the aim, but it was just a bit about like what we do here, talking about the kind of realities of some of the aspects of it. I guess it was interesting.
For sure.
Sorry, Rogue's pushing my laptop about.
Love it. Well, thank you as always, girls, and thank you, Michaela. I'll put your Instagram handle in the description, as I will with the girls. And if anyone's interested in coaching for all four of us, obviously you know our credentials, or you want to reach out about anything we've spoken about, maybe PEDs, right? Then of course we are here to support the community. And I'll speak to you all very soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.